Okay.
This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com. And today we have a guy that wrestled for the WWE for about 7 years, had The Undertaker's debut match, King Kong Bundy's debut match, Hercules' debut match, Demolition's debut match, Heart Foundation's debut match, and got in a backstage altercation with Dynamite Kid. Dave Schultz broke his nose, and a lot more has happened with Mario Mancini over the years. You were even there for Hulk Hogan beating the Iron Sheik. You've seen it all.
I gotta tell you something, man. But that was the first time in my life that I got real spooky chills because you know, I was just kind of just on YouTube, just kind of surfing, and it said the birth of Hulkamania. And I said, let me watch this. And I watched it, and he throws the Sheik out of the ring, and I'm like, is that me? I'm like, that's me. I was there. I'm famous for having a memory like an elephant. And I'm like, this chill came over. I'm like, that was 7 months before I broke in. So I'm like, I was in the garden, and then it all started coming back to me. Started coming back to me. And I remember Tony Altomare being on a payphone because he worked for Titan Sports. That's why I went. I was in wrestling school, and he said, hey, kid, you want to take a ride to the garden with me? I'm like, yeah, sure. So he ended up coming up to me and said, look, you're going to go out and help out at the end of this match and everything. I'm like, all right. But he called his girlfriend. It was like 11:30 at night, and he called his girlfriend from the garden, and she was crying. She goes, my ex-husband showed up, and he was drunk. And Tony had this 1976 big Cadillac Eldorado convertible, and it was freezing out. And I swear to God, he must have got to New Haven in an hour on the Parkway from the garden. I mean, he's going 110 miles an hour. He's so mad. So now, he goes into the house like 1 o'clock in the morning. He goes into the house, and I'm in the car. I'm 17 years old. So he comes out at 3:30 like this. And he comes walking up to the car, and he goes, kid, I forgot you were in the car. Why didn't you knock on the door? I go, I don't know, Tony, you were pretty mad. I'm a senior in high school. I'm like, you seem pretty mad. It was like none of my business, yeah, but it's cold out. You sat here. The car's not running. The heat's not on. I go, I just figured eventually you'd come out. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I had my big 1977 green Thunderbird parked at Passerello's Quest, where the wrestling school was. So he took me back to my car, and I finally went home.
Yeah, I actually started when I was 17 too, but you started right in the WWE after training school. I guess you were a fan, and from what I understand, your brother actually paid the $3,000 for you to be trained by Tony, who at the time was in charge of helping bringing talent to make the stars look good on TV. So if you want to share the Coles Notes version of that, that'd be great, because there's a lot of great stories that you have.
Well, it was, Hug, can you close that door? Tony Altomare trained myself, Dave Barbie, Seth Cohen, who worked as Robbie Parliament, AJ Petrucci, myself, Dave Barbie, and he told us that we were friends and we were sparring. And when we turned pro, we were really going to apply this stuff. That's what he told us. So he would always say, stay really loose in the ring. You guys are friends. You don't want to hurt each other. But when you go out there and that bell rings, well, you gotta fight for your life. Okay. So he goes, we're going to go to Poughkeepsie today. And it was July 31st of 84. And I just graduated high school 6 weeks ago, you know. So he goes, we're going to go to Poughkeepsie and we're going to go there in the afternoon and we're going to work in the WWF ring. We're going to do class in the WWF ring. I go, yeah, okay. So we hop in his car and we go to Poughkeepsie. And we're sitting in an empty arena, you know, we're watching promos. And in fact, Hulk Hogan, I don't know if he'll ever remember this, but I was standing there by the stage watching him cut a promo. And he said, hey, kid, you got your boot with you? I go, yeah. He goes, give me your boot. And he cut a promo with my wrestling boot. And we're just sitting there, and Tony comes up to us and goes, all right, go downstairs. You guys are working tonight. What? Go downstairs. You guys are working tonight. Go see Gorilla Monsoon. So we go downstairs and we see Gorilla Monsoon. He goes, put your shoot name here, your real name here, your real name here. I go, what's this? He goes, it's a contract. I said, how long is it for? He goes, how long do you want it for? I go, well, do I need a lawyer to look at this? He goes, not this contract. You going to sign it or not? So I signed the contract. AJ Petrucci signed the contract. Seth signed it. Dave Barbie signed it. So Tony takes me and he goes, I need to introduce you to someone. I said, okay. So he walks me over and he goes, this is Chief Jay Strongbow. This is Mario Mancini. I said, hi, Mr. Strongbow. It's nice to meet you. He goes, yeah, kid. Yeah. Go talk to Valentine. I go, why? He goes, you're working with him. I go, I'm wrestling him. He goes, yeah. I go, is this for the Intercontinental title? Is this a non-title match? Because I'm going to beat him. Chief, I'm going to beat him. So he looks over at Tony. And when Strongbow was a little irritated, he'd go, That's all he would do. Trust me, the guy was my second father for 28 years. So he goes, go talk to Valentine. I said, I'm not talking to him. He's not getting that figure four on me. There's no chance. Tony puts his arm around me. We walk away. He goes, listen, just go talk to Valentine. Okay? Okay. So I go walking up to Greg Valentine. He's sitting down. I said, Greg Valentine. He goes, yeah. I go, I'm Mario Mancini. I'm wrestling you. Not working with you. I'm wrestling you. He goes, yeah, kid. How long have you been working? I said, this is my first professional match. Like Lurch, hammer went. He goes, listen, slap that figure four on you. Keep your legs loose. If you don't, you're going to hurt yourself. I'm not going to hurt you. You're going to do it to yourself. And my stomach just dropped. Just dropped. And I went, oh. Can I get a comeback? He goes, you want to come back? I said, I'd appreciate it. He goes, sure. After you submit to the figure four, get up from the canvas and come back to the dressing room. That's your comeback. I said, okay. So we were like on the third hour because I think it aired in the middle of August or something. And Poughkeepsie had a long hallway, man. It was like a mile, a long hallway. So I go sprinting down the hallway and I see the employees there. I go, where's the cell phone? Where's the cell phone? Where's the payphone? Told me where the payphones were. I called home. I called my brother Ralph. Now, my brother Ralph is the one when I got out of bed in 1973 when I was 7. He had a little black and white TV, 12-inch vice grip on the knob to change the channel because the knob broke. And he had wrestling on. And I've never seen it before. And he said, come here. And I went over to him. He goes, you see that guy right there? I said, yeah. He goes, that's Bruno Sammartino. He's the greatest wrestler that ever lived. And he's from Italy, just like us. and I was mesmerized. I mean, Bruno became my whole life. And thank God, I thank the good Lord above that I got to spend over an hour with him in Westchester County Center in 1999. And I spilled my guts to him, to Bruno. And at the end, he looked at me. He said, Mancini, I wish you were my son. And then I asked about David, and boy, that was a sore spot. So I went out there and I called my brother Ralph, and I said, Ralph, it's a setup. And he went, no. I go, Ralph, I got to lose. He goes, no, who are you wrestling? I go, Greg Valentine. He goes, but you could beat him. I go, it's a setup. It's a setup, Ralph. It's a setup. No, it isn't. I go, Ralph, I'm right here. I'm here. The TV that we were watching, I'm within a couple of hours, I'm going to be inside that TV. I'm here. It's a setup. I have to lose.
So it's interesting because now a lot of wrestlers have never even been in a real fight, and you were getting into it thinking it was MMA, basically.
Right. I was ready. I was ready to go. So. Although when I look back at it, I mean, Valentine would have kicked the living shit out of me in a shoe. But yeah. So I went up to Strongbow. Before, I had a while to wait, and I said, "What would you like me to do?" And he goes, "See that chair right there?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Sit there and keep your mouth shut and your ears open. Don't say a word. Just shut up." And then he started making out the board, and I went back up to him. I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Strongbow." He goes, "Yeah." I go, "You spelled my name wrong on the board." He goes, "What?" I go, "You spelled my name wrong on the board, Mancini." He goes, "Kid, let me ask you something. Do you think it really makes a difference?" I said, "It makes a difference to me." He goes, "Sit down and shut up." I said, "Okay." So I just sit down and shut up. And he goes, "Did you say hi to all the boys?" I said, "No, not yet." So I went up to SD. The only person I was told not to approach was Andre. I was told that, in order to talk to Andre, I had to wait for him to talk to me first. So that happened about 6 months later. So I went up to SD. I went up to the Moondogs. I went to Snuka, Piper, Hogan. I went up to Tito Santana, all of them, and just introduced myself. And that was my first night there. I went out there and I took the figure 4, and I had shown Hammer the match a few years ago. We sat and watched the match, and I sold my ass off on the figure 4, man, hard, like he was killing me and my whole family. So that was it. My second match was August 9th, 1984 in the West Warwick Music Theater against David Schultz, and he broke my nose in 2 places as a welcome to pro wrestling. And I'm glad he did, because I didn't want to go through it for an extended period of time. So what happened is he broke my nose in West Warwick, Rhode Island on August 9th. And then a month later, I was in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and they put me with him on TV. And I guess they were watching to see if I was going to unlace my boots and say, "Yeah, I'm not doing this." Then I didn't belong there. So I took a minute in a stall in the men's room, in the dressing room, and I just sat there. I was scared. I was scared, and because I had just took the packing out of my nose. I was packed up to my brain, and I took it out myself. I didn't wait for the doctor. I pulled it out myself, because Strongbow said he wasn't going to use me if I could only breathe out of my mouth. So I just went up to David and I said, "You can break it again. I'll just get a reset and come back." And he goes, No, boy, you got it all wrong. Got it all wrong, boy. Because David had called me after my surgery at home and to apologize. And he said, "Your face got in the way of my fist." So I told him he could break it again. So he goes, "No, it's not like that, boy. Not like that." He goes, "I'm going to apologize to you on national TV." I said, "What?" "You got to remember something again, man. Young kid, I'm like, really? Yeah, yeah, that's right, boy. I'm going to apologize to you on national TV for breaking your nose. I said, wow, okay. Went out to the ring. It's on YouTube. Went out to the ring. He spread his arms out. He went his arms out. He goes, man, sorry for breaking your nose. I shook his hand and he smacked me clear across the face. Clear across the face. And I sold it. And this is when I knew I had a couple screws loose back then. I wanted to laugh. Dig a dirt. I was wondering how many people were really going to get the significance of that picture behind me. Good for you. So, I'm glad he did that because I didn't want to go through the hazing. And that was a quick hazing to see if I belong there or not. And other than the chops and battle royals until my chest bled, that's the only hazing I got. Les Thornton stretched me out once, but that's because we were in New Hampshire and the baby faces couldn't get to the heels unless they went through the venue. So Strongbow goes, you can't talk to your opponent. And you know what? I was pretty damn proud of that because I want to explain something. When people hear the word professional wrestler, they take that word professional and they make it synonymous with fake. Professional wrestler. For me, being a professional wrestler was going into the ring only knowing the finish and then going in there and having a match. That's what being a real professional to me was. So SD Jones, he goes, Les is a little up there, kid. You got to take it easy on him. I go, how old is he? He goes, well, I think he's in his late 40s, early 50s. You really got to take it easy on him. You're only 18 years old. I go, he goes, I'll tell you what, when you lock up a Les, when you lock up, just say, what do you want to do, old man? I said, well, okay. So I went out there, and locked up with him. And I said, what do you want to do, old man? And my head was up my ass and my arm was where it wasn't supposed to be. And I didn't know he was some sort of Olympic wrestler for England or something. He was a shooter and he had me pretty twisted hard. I couldn't breathe. And he goes, you going to be a good boy? I go, uh-huh. He said, good. And we had a great match and we became really good friends. And then when I went back to the dressing room, SD Jones had his hands on his knees and he was busting a gut. Just busting a gut. So
I knew Les Thornton too in Calgary in his retirement years, and I think he was like half of an agent too for a while there too, wasn't he?
Yeah. Les was a really good guy. He was. We were all in the car. Him, me, Les Thornton, and David Sammartino. That I didn't know Frank Williams. He was gone by the time I got there. But I took his place, it's funny. It's funny when I used to watch. I told my family in 1980 when I was 14, when Bruno announced his retirement, I said, "I'm going to wrestle for the WWF," and they're like, "What?" I go, "I'm going to be a pro wrestler." I said that when I was 14. I said, "But I ain't going to be no Frank Williams. I'll tell you that." Well, guess what? I think I eclipsed him. So yeah, it was me, Les, and David Sammartino in the car. And I can't remember the reason, but these guys came right to my front door and they picked me up. So Les opens up the trunk. I put my stuff in the trunk and David's in the back seat, like driving Miss Daisy. So I sit in the front. So I'm in the front seat. I reach back, shake David's hand, shake Les's hand. How you guys doing? Les takes off. He's driving. I'm sitting and he's going, and I'm like, what's up with that? So I see David in the back. I look back, I go, how you doing, David? Bullshit. I said, what's wrong? He goes, Neidhart went over last night, used my finish. I said, so what? What What do you mean, so what? You can't use another guy's finish. I go, David, you're Bruno Sammartino's kid. Big deal, he goes. He didn't show me anything. Larry Zbyszko taught me how to work. He goes, my father never showed me a damn thing. Okay. I was kind of wondering why you dropped that Bruno Sammartino Jr. gig. I guess that's what he did. I go, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to talk to Vince. We get to Poughkeepsie. Les and I drop our bags, start saying hello to everybody. He makes a beeline to Vince. Hands are flying. David picks up his bag, walks by Les and I, and goes, you take care of yourself, guys. Take care. Never saw him again.
Yeah, it's too bad because if he had had a better attitude, he probably could have made a lot more money. I don't know what he did as his day job, though. Supposedly, he wants unheard of amounts of money for shoot interviews.
I don't know, Hannibal. The only thing I could tell you is this: is he, we were in the Hartford Civic Center, right? One time, I didn't sell it. We were in the bathroom. And in the Hartford Civic Center, there's the dressing room. You walk out of the dressing room, walk 3 feet, and there was the men's room. So I was in there, and I said, hey, David, I like that forearm. It was a backbreaker or a bear hug. Oh, David's was a power slam. David's finish was a power slam. So I said, I really like that forearm that you throw. I go, can you teach me how to throw it? He goes, oh, yeah, sure. Hannibal, let me tell you something. When I tell you he rang my bell, that bathroom was spinning, and I just stood back up because I was leaned over, and I stood up and I looked him dead in the face and I go, it's pretty good. I'll remember that. He goes, good. And then he left, and then I went into a stall and just sat down, man, and just tried to get my bearings because, it's 2022. So this comment, this statement isn't appropriate for the times. But when you got your bell rung in the ring, usually hitting your head, you'll come back and the guy you were working with will look at you and go, you were on Queer Street for a couple seconds there. And that means nothing toward any kind of sexual. That just means that you just lost your bearings. But he put me there, and I never forgot that. I'm like, man, that's a miserable thing to do, because I run Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling with Paul Roma, and we have a big contingent there for students, and they all help each other. There's no competition in that wrestling school. Everybody helps everybody, because I tell them when they first come in, I go, you think there's a lot of respect in the martial arts, it pales in comparison to the respect that's required in pro wrestling. So, incredible, man. It really was an incredible journey in that business. And in retrospect, somebody was kind enough. I mean, kind of really choked me up. He did like a 28-minute documentary on me. I'm like, well, wow. And at the end of the documentary, he said maybe Mancini would have been better suited. And then he showed Jerry Lawler and Dusty Rhodes and, smaller guys. If he decided to go to these territories instead of going to the land of the giants right off the rip. And Bret Hart had come up to me in 1990, and he sat next to me and he was staring at me. And I looked over at him. I'm like, what? And he just kept staring at me. I go, what? He goes, you want to go to Calgary? And I talked to Roma about this. He gets mad at me because I kind of regret it. And I went, now? I go, I've been here for 6 years. You want me to go now? I go, I'm going to go on a bus and ride the towns for 7 hours. There's no heat on the bus. I go, your father's, I'm going to go there and your father's going to break my arm. No. I'll talk to my father. He's not going to do that. You don't have to do any of that. I'm like, I don't know, Brett. I kind of don't want to go. Because you're getting killed out there. I go, what else is new? What else is I'm just waiting. DiBiase was DiBiase Morocco. The only two guys that said something, that Morocco did something and DiBiase said something. So I'm coming back from the ring. The other jobber's already in the ring. Morocco's coming out, and I'm almost at the door in Poughkeepsie. Morocco pushes me in the aisle. Just push me back. Push him back. Push me again. Push me back. Push me again. Push him back. Monsoon opens up that big metal door and he goes, Mancini, get your fucking ass in here. So I went in. So Morocco comes back. I go, what was that? He goes, right place, right time. You never know. You just never know, Mario. Weirder things have happened. Just give it a shot. I said, thank you so much. And there was another time with DiBiase. I did the most TV matches with DiBiase for some reason. And Strongbow started coming up with ideas. Like, I worked with Ted one time. This is like probably by the fourth or fifth time I've worked with him on TV. So Chief goes, Ted, go up to Mario and go, look at this belt. This belt is worth more than your whole life. But he goes, Mario, boom, slap up. The belt will go flying. He'll go try to catch it. Give it to him. We did that. Another time he went out and held up money. And he said, oh, Roma's in great shape. Roma's in great. Still eats tuna fish and applesauce. He holds up money and goes, you'll never have this kind of money. I snatched the money out of his hands. He go out of the ring and start running around the outside of the ring. Virgil catches me on one side. I turn around, DiBiase gets me. So now they put me with him again. And Ted, I'm standing behind Ted, and Pat Patterson is there, and Strongbow's there. And Ted looks up at the board. He goes, I got Mancini again. He goes, people are going to think these are repeats. And he looks back at me and he goes, no offense, kid. I go, no, I'm taken. Pat goes, oh, they will not. Don't worry about it. Just go out there and work with Mancini. It's okay. And he goes, why don't we just run an angle? And I went, And Pat just walked away. And that was the end of that. Done.
I've heard that Ric Flair used to tip some people for putting him over extra well. Did anyone ever do that with you? Any of the bigger stars?
Well, it was so called that, everybody got $50 for TV, which my brother Bob could never comprehend. I said, Hulk Hogan gets $50 for TV. I go, listen, Vince figures you're promoting yourself. So he gives everybody $50 for TV. And rumors have it that there were guys that were over that would give their payday to the jobber. And I like being called a jobber, not an enhancement talent, because I'm not a human Viagra. I'd rather be called a jobber. But I never experienced that. Nobody ever came over to me and handed their $50 over to me.
So that's more rumor than anything. I heard you say before that Gorilla Monsoon was always yelling. And
always.
Stuff.
Hannibal.
So the soft-spoken gorilla that we see on TV wasn't the same on stage.
Hannibal, you have no idea. You have no idea. This one of the scariest moments of my life. Myself, and see if the hardcores could go, oh my God, on this one. Myself and Gino Carabello are rooming in a motel. Motel's the entrance from the outside. And not a hotel, it was a motel. So Gino and I are in the motel shooting his shit. And he goes, aren't you sick of Gorilla Monsoon yelling at you? I go, I kind of am. I go, Jesus, he yells at everybody. He doesn't even talk. He just screams at you. And Gino starts going, the big goof. And he starts talking about Gorilla Monsoon. We go to bed. get up, and we go to leave to go to the next town. We open up the motel door, and the car parked right next to us it was a Lincoln with a license plate that said kayfabe. And I went, he goes, what's wrong? I go, it's Gino's car. I go, what if he got the room right next to us? I go, I wonder if he heard everything. He goes, we're done. We're finished. He goes, we're through. We're through. I said, I don't know if he heard all that stuff. What are we going to do? So we went. He was the agent at the next show. And we walked in there and like, hey, Gino, how you doing? Hey, guys, what's going on? I'm like, oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Jesus Christ. But yeah. Miss his kid, man. Miss Joey Morella. Joey Morella was one of the best guys you ever wanted to meet in your life. Oh my God, did he have that dressing room in stitches? Constantly in stitches. He was so funny. So funny.
That wasn't he fell asleep at the wheel, or how did that work? Was there other people in the car after an event or something?
Yeah, I think there were other people in the car. Yeah, I think so. That's how Adrian Adonis died too. So that's why Roma and I go to IAW. We were going to IAW once a year to Brian Costello, which is another legendary name from the past, Brian Costello, out in South Bend. And we would take all the green guys with us from the wrestling school, give them the experience of being on the road for 14 hours and stuff. And Roma and I would be at the helm. Either he would be driving or whatever, and I'd be in the passenger seat. We're just shooting the shit, and not, you don't sleep. So we look in the back, and the guys are sleeping, and I go, Roma. He goes, let it go. I go, Roma, you know the rule. There's no sleeping on the road, or you get the shit knocked out of you. He goes, what are you gonna do tomorrow? You're gonna beat them? We're gonna beat them all up. I go, I don't know. Let's rib them, throw some water on them or something. So Roma came up with a better idea, which we got him, because when I met Roma, I was 18 and Roma was 25. So now I'm 56 and he's 63. So double check my math. And, we went on the road together and we roomed together. And the first time we ever roomed together, I went to the bathroom in the room. And I opened the door and I came out. Now you gotta picture Roma here. I mean, this guy's a Greek god. I mean, he had the best body in the dressing room. I mean, unbelievable physique, unbelievable. So now I come out of the bathroom and I'm just going about my business, and I turn around and he's staring at me, and he's looking at the bathroom and he's staring at me, and I go, what's up? He goes, did you eat someone? I go, no, Roma, why? Now I'm rooming baby Huey, basically. 18, baby Huey is rooming with Paul Roma. He goes, did you eat someone? I go, no, Roma, why? He goes, because it smells like somebody died in your intestines. And he was pissed. So when we went with the on the road with the guys, we went to the room. I go, he goes, Mancini, let me know when it's time. And I go, so I finally looked at him like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, it's time. He goes, okay. So he calls the guys in the other room and he goes, hey guys, there's something really important I got to tell you about this IAW and Brian Costello and how he runs his shows. It's important that you know this before you walk in there. So we knock on the door. They open up the door of the room, and Roma's first to go in. When he goes in, I slipped into the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. When I came out, we both ran out of there. Left the guys are going, oh. So that's how we got him back for sleeping in the car. That was the rib we gave him. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So, yeah.
You mentioned Adrian Adonis passing. I heard you say that he was one of the guys you didn't like working with very much.
I didn't. I didn't because, listen, we all had a dream. Every single one of us, Hannibal, even you. even you, we all had a dream. But our dreams weren't any less than anybody else's. You know, you watch this Dark Side of the Ring and they show them when they were kids and how big of wrestling fans they were, and wrestling was everything to them, and they gave their heart and soul to it. And okay, we all did. Let me make something clear here. I didn't break into the entertainment business. I can give a shit about the entertainment business. I broke into the wrestling business. That's the business I broke into, not the entertainment business. So the wrestling was always paramount to me. We all had that dream, all of us. My dreams aren't any less than Shawn Michaels, you know. So when I go into the ring with you, what I'm telling you is I'm giving you my body and I'm trusting you with it. And I expect respect. 95% of the time I got that, including when these guys covered me: Randy Savage, Kurt Hennig, DiBiase, Kamala, King Kong. But Chris and I were the closest of friends. When that 3 count was going, they go, "Thank you, brother." Go ahead, my pleasure. Adonis just didn't do that. And Adonis really didn't respect the jobbers at all. They didn't. You know, it's funny. I looked at Valentine recently, this year, and I said, "Greg," he went, "Yeah." I go, "Why couldn't we be this close back then?" Because he loves me. So's Beefcake, Eddie. Every time I say his name, I laugh because Eddie is just Eddie. I love him to death, though. I go, "Why couldn't we all be this close back then?" He goes, "Mario, different time. You know, just a different time. You know." So he goes, "It just wasn't like that back then." He goes, "But look at us now. We should appreciate what we have now." I go, "No, you're right. You're right. But, you know, our dreams weren't any less." So when I go in there, this career isn't going the way I thought it would. You know what I mean? When they say, "Hey, pay your dues and you'll go somewhere." Well, I paid them and I went nowhere. I went nowhere. I walked away. After my last match with Rick Rude in Huntsville, Alabama. I let Terry Garvin called my house. My mother answered the phone and said, "It's Terry Garvin. I'm sure he had somewhere to meet, go in Pennsylvania or somewhere." And I went, she said, "I'm sorry, Terry's not home." And that was it. They never called me again. And I walked away. I just couldn't, you know, I was a couple months shy of my 26th birthday. And you know, I was in pain. Crazy. You know what I mean? It was just nuts, you know, but you know, that's the way it was. You know, working with guys like Paul Orndorff and Rick Rude and the Honky Tonk Man and Savage, and you know, it was like a walk in the park most of the time. You know, I begged Strongbow to put me on all 3 hours. I go, "I just want to wrestle. Just want to wrestle." You know, I remember he put me with Butch Reed one. He goes, "Mr. Mancini, come here." Let me lay out why he called me Mr. Mancini. He called me Mr. Mancini for 20 years. So I was there a few months, and I walked in, bag over my shoulder, all happy. I was living the dream, man. No matter what position, I was living the dream. I wanted to become a professional wrestler, and I did it. And I felt so thankful because, you know, there's a lot of people who had a lot of dreams, and they never lived them. So to actually profess that you're gonna be a pro wrestler for the biggest company in the world, and you actually do it, it's freaky. So I was always happy. You know? So he goes, "Mr. Mancini, come here." I said, "Yeah, Chief, what's up?" He goes, "It's 5:20. I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Call time's 5 o'clock. I said, "Chief, I'm here." He goes, "You're late." I go, "Nah, Chief, I'm not." He goes, "It's 20 after 5, Mancini. You're late. You know who Buddy Rogers is?" I go, "Yeah, I know who Buddy Rogers is." He goes, "I hate Buddy Rogers. He was always late, always. And he wanted people to call him Mr. Rogers, not Buddy. You want me to hate you?" I go, "No, no, Chief, I don't want you to hate me. That's the last thing I want. He goes, then be on time. Okay, Mr. Mancini. And he called me Mr. Mancini for 28 years. So goes, Mr. Mancini, come here. You know Mr. Reed? I go, yeah, I did. That's the way Chief was. You know Mr. Reed, Mr. Mancini? I go, I do. Butch starts laughing. He goes, he's got a new finish. I go, okay. He's going to press slam me over his head. I go, yeah, Tony Atlas. He goes, no. He's not going to slam you. He's going to drop you. He goes, here's the problem I have. Guys are bending their knees, and it looks like shit. Can you pancake? I go, well, Chief, they're afraid of hitting their balls. That's why they're bending their knees. He goes, do you think you could pancake? I go, what do you think, Chief? Don't get cocky with me. He goes, don't get cocky with me. So I went out there, and he pressed me, and he dropped me, and I pancaked. Flat. I pancaked. And I went back. Strongbow was really happy, he's really happy. He's like, oh, kid, that looked good. I put my arm around him. I go, didn't it, Chief? Here's the problem. I can't work with him every night. Somebody else is going to have to do it. They ended up canning the finish after a while.
Yeah, because the stars aren't going to take that if extra as well.
Yeah.
Was Chief gone by the time you decided to stop taking the calls because you were kind of Chief's go-to extra guy to use to get people over?
Mm-mm. Chief was still there. No, Chief was well there into the 90s, late 90s. No. What happened was when I got there, George Scott was the booker. And you got to remember something. Chief's the one that fired Schultz. So Chief had a tremendous amount of power. But when Pat came in, he slowly started losing that. It was getting taken away from him. And we'd have conversations about it. But no, he was still there. He's the one that convinced me to get out. Because his son Mark had come in, and he had this USA American flag spandex, and he would break dance in the ring. He was really good, and they stopped booking him. So Strongbow simply looked at me and said, Mancini, although I love you like a son, he said, I can't get my own kid booked. How the hell am I going to get you booked? I said, things are dwindling here. He goes, get out. Get yourself an education. Get out. And that was the night. I don't even want to say this publicly, but I will, because my rule on podcasts is it's no holds barred, and I tell the truth. So he goes, you see, Mancini, what your problem was? And Terry walked out of the dressing room to go to the bathroom. That was, again, in the Hartford Civic Center. And the warlord walked out, and he said, the problem is you didn't look like that. And you didn't have that height. And Dusty Rhodes walked out right in back of him. And I said, what's his excuse? And Strongbow, every time Strongbow ever got mad at me, of course I had a mullet. He grabbed me by the back of my hair hard and pulled me back. That's how I knew he was mad at me. And he would grind his teeth and talk to me. And he goes, you take that back right now. You take that back. Disrespectful. You take that back right now, saying that about Dusty Rhodes. I said, I'm sorry, Chief. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it. I didn't mean it. He goes, you're lucky I don't walk you up to him right now and have you tell him what you said about him. I said, Chief, please don't do that. I'm so sorry. So yeah, I got out.
So we read in Bret Hart's book that Chief liked the drawings of Patterson and Brawler on that chalkboard. I guess that's why Bret never got in trouble, because maybe he had some heat with Patterson for Patterson getting more power?
Well, listen, man. You know, Chief would like that. You know, Joey Morella used to be able like just contort his whole face and turn into Steve Lombardi. And everybody would hit the floor. You know, there were times, Hannibal, when he was the ref in the ring on TV, and I'd be down there still selling because the rule is that the jobber's got to stay down until the over guy is gone. One of my guys in the wrestling school, John Rizzo, who Altamar trained, worked with the Junkyard Dog, and Dog gave him the thump and the finish, and he got up and grabbed the fan and was dancing to Another One Bites the Dust. John got up in back of him and left the ring. And JYD went back in the dressing room and broke his nose and said, "Don't you ever get up until I'm gone. Don't you ever get off that canvas." So Joey would lean over, and people were just thinking that, you know, the referee's seeing if Mario's okay. But he would stand over me, and then he'd contort his face to the Lombardi. And I'd be selling on the can, and I'm like this. Like I'm still selling, but I have to cover my face because he's making me laugh. I can't laugh on TV like that after doing a job. But I'm like, Joey, get away from me. Get away from me. Get away from me. So, yeah, listen, a lot of people want to go on YouTube, or if you're old enough and you remember seeing me on TV or coming to see me live or whatever, you know, and you go, geez, don't get the wrong idea, man. If they asked me to do it all over again and it was going to go exactly the same way, I would still done it. I would have still done it. You know what I mean? I go to wrestling conventions all over this country. I'm leaving for North Carolina on Thanksgiving Day because the convention is Friday and Saturday. So, and my promoter likes to drive. So, you know, we're leaving Connecticut Thanksgiving Day to go to, you know, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So, and I see all my friends. You know, that's why I do these conventions. I don't give a damn about the money. I want to see my friends. I want to sit there and laugh and tell stories. You know, so it was a good experience. So, you know,
The pay was decent too, right? Like you would do house shows, and when you would do the house shows, you'd get a percentage of the gate.
Well, no, that was Hogan. Hogan got the percentage. No, house shows, like I said, Hannibal, I tell the truth. Depending on the town. So in its heyday, I'm talking about big time heyday. Vince ran 4 towns a night. Now, if you were on the 4th town, you were going to make 150, 175 bucks, you know, and it went up as you went up. Now, if you're working on the 1st town, that means Hogan's the main event. You're working the 1st town, you're going to get anywhere from 350 to 550 for that night. The biggest week I ever had in professional wrestling was $3,300. I worked 3 1st towns that week, and the rest were 4th towns. So that, you know, that's the highest I ever got paid in pro wrestling.
But even in 2022, like 40 years later, there's not many making 175 on indie shows, let alone a WWE show. So still pretty decent.
Well, Hannibal, I feel horrible because I own independent pro wrestling. I own Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. And I feel bad because it's the luck of the draw, man. I don't have any sponsors. Roma and I don't have any sponsors. So we're working on the gate. And when that gate is low, guys are getting paid 25 bucks. You know, when the gate's good, they're getting paid 40 or 50. You know, when the gate's good. But these days, you know.
The pay is not moved. And that's why it was funny when Braun Strowman was saying he wanted 25 grand a match for indie shows when he first got released there. But I don't even think he got one booking other than for his own company, because that money doesn't exist on indies.
No, Hannibal, because where are you going to get a venue to accommodate that, even if he did draw that, where you getting that venue? I mean, unless you're charging $100 a ticket. I mean, people have to realize as a wrestling promoter, and I am a wrestling promoter, I get a venue fee, usually averages about $750. I have a payroll that usually averages around $750. I have liability insurance, event insurance, $1 million policy, that's $266. I got to get a U-Haul, and now it's over $1 a mile. That's usually $250. If I want to do concessions, I got to invest in the food and hope people come hungry. You know what I mean? I got gas for the U-Haul. I mean, I'm like 1,800 in the hole before I rip a ticket. So it's a
Ticket printing
challenge.
too. People forget ticket printing and advertising.
Yeah, ticket printing. But listen, I rolled the dice a couple of months ago. I ran an 18 and over show at a bar and at the Cadillac Ranch in Southington, Connecticut, and I made these great posters. The posters were over $200.
Is that like the Cadillac Ranch in Vegas?
Oh yeah, no, not exactly. No, I wish it was, but because I am a single man. but no. But those posters were over $200, so a lot goes into it. And I thank God our wrestling school is big enough to hold about 80 people, because we've been doing a lot of little house shows in there, and I don't have to worry about a venue fee. I don't have to worry about insurance. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And at that, with the payroll, you're still walking away with, $300 or $400, but you got rent to pay, you got heat to pay, you got everything to pay, man. It's really a challenge.
Yeah, I've heard some more veteran indie wrestlers saying that the younger ones accepting the 25 and $50 hurts the veterans getting booked. But as someone that promoted for 15 years as well, you're usually losing money or breaking even. If you're lucky, you'll make some, but you're working your ass off. And it's like, you're doing it just so they can get experience, and you're putting all the risk up. And if you lose, they still get the same amount. So
Yeah.
it's just a tough business, but good. You have the school and the company, if you want to tell people about that a bit.
Well, yeah, we have Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling School in East Haven, Connecticut. And like I said, Roma is the head instructor. We're very honest at Paradise Alley. So when these people come in and put their money down, Roma goes, "You'll be with Mario." And a couple of them go, "How come I didn't start with Roma?" I go, "Look at me. I'm one of the top 10 losers in professional wrestling history. Do you understand that? Yeah. Can you think of anybody better that's going to teach you how to take a bump? How to take a heel? How to hit the ropes, hit the turnbuckles? Go through the middle, over the top? Do you know anybody else better that's going to teach you that than me? No. Okay. When it comes to the leapfrogs and the drop kicks and the arm drags and the hip tosses, Roma's going to teach you that. That's Roma's territory. And we're both going to teach you psychology. Oh, okay. So I get them for the first third of their education, and then Roma gets them the other 2/3, and he takes them the rest of the way. So.
And I actually just watched The Undertaker's debut match again today, back when he was known as Kane the Undertaker, with Brother Love as his manager. And you, looking jacked, actually wrestled him on that day. But I heard you say on the Cheap Heat podcast, which I thank them for hooking us up, that
My brother
match,
Maurice.
Yeah, Maurice, great guy, and I've done his show
Fantastic.
too. But that was taped before the Survivor Series, so the crowd didn't even know who the Undertaker was. And to you, that could have been a gimmick that succeeded or failed.
Yeah, I mean, the question I always get is, did you know the Undertaker was going to be that big? I go, no, I didn't. I go, I was also a big Bully Busick's debut match. Remember him?
Yeah, I do.
Like he lasted maybe a year. No, I didn't know Mark was going to be that big, but and everybody always wants to know the interaction and everything like that. So I'm going to give everybody a secret right now. And and they're going to watch it and go, oh my God, he's right. So I go up to Strongbone and I look up on the board and it says Undertaker v Mancini. I go, hey, Chief, now, Hannibal, I got a mouth now, man. I've been there for 6 years. You know, I got respect. The guys that are over are talking to me now, and, you know, I'm one of them. So I go, who's the Undertaker? He goes, that guy over there. His name is Mark. I go, God damn, he's tall, man. I said, all right. So he goes, yeah, go talk to him. I go, all right. So I go up to him. I go, hey, you Mark? He goes, yeah. I go, Mario Mancini, how you doing? I go, I'm working with you tonight. He goes, yeah. I go, what's your finish? He goes, a tombstone. I go, what is that? He goes, it's a reverse pile driver. I go, oh, I took a lot of them against Morocco. I go, that's Morocco's finish. Probably didn't like that, right? I said, that's Morocco's finish. I took a lot of those from him. So I go, that's good. Anything in particular? Because, hello, wrestlers of 2022, even in a house show, all you got was the finish. That's it. You did everything in the ring. There was no, we're going to lock up. I'm going to push you in the ropes. I'm going to throw you off. Myself and Tony Atlas one time were in a dressing room listening to this tag team going over a match. And I looked at Atlas. I go, are they going to remember all that? He goes, I don't know, brother. You can't talk to him, though. He goes, don't bother. So they're going over the match. And I go, hey, guys. And they look over at me. I go, why don't you just throw in what time you got up, what you had for breakfast, what time you got in your car to come here, how many red lights you had to stop. I go, why don't you just throw all that in too? So he tells me, I go, anything in particular you want to do, Mark? He goes, well, I'm going to walk the top rope. I go, how tall are you? He goes, 6'10". I go, you're going to walk the top rope? He goes, yeah, but Mario, you got to keep your elbow locked out because if your elbow collapses, I'm going to fall off the top rope. I go, yeah, you don't have to worry about that. You're good. He's like, all right. I go, anything else? He goes, yeah, I'm going to clothesline you backwards over the top rope. You've done that, right? I go, yeah. He goes, all right, that's it. So now I walk away and I sit down and I go, I've never gone over the top rope backwards, ever. Nobody ever taught me. I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm 5'11" in my wrestling boots. 5'11 and a half gives me an inch. So I'm sitting there pondering this thing, Hannibal, and I go, you know what? If my waist is level with the top rope, when he clotheslines me, I'll go right over. So now he chokes me, pushes me against the ropes. The referee tells him to break the choke. He looks over at the referee and takes a couple steps toward him like he's going to do something to him. I push the top rope down. I even look behind me to make sure I was going to hit anything. I push it. Nobody catches it until I tell this story. I push the top rope down. I go, and he clotheslines me. And I go, beautifully, right over, backwards, right onto the floor. But until I tell people that I did that, they go, let me go back and watch that. And then they see me push down the top rope. So it's level with my waist. So I go right over when he clotheslines me. And they even see me look behind me to make sure I'm not going to bump through chairs.
I watched that match just like an hour before I did this, and I remember that was a cool spot because he just goes from talking to the ref to just turning around
right
and whacking you like that.
Right.
And
right.
It looked flawless. So
yeah, did you catch me pushing the top rope down?
I didn't, but I am going to go back and watch. But one thing I did notice from that, like he had the character down really good for a first match, other than he celebrated maybe a bit more at the end than he did in later matches.
Yeah.
But I was wondering how much it would have been planned because you could tell that they were really going to put an effort into that character. So it's interesting. Right. Nowadays, they would have walked you through every step before you actually did that.
It turns my stomach because from what I understand, all the matches are scripted, and if you throw in something extra, you're in a lot of trouble. I could never work like that.
I
Never.
remember and it was 15 years ago, so I can imagine it was worse now. I did an enhancement match for Heidenreich, and I was allowed 2 punches, and I have a good chop, and I asked him if I could chop him, and I told him to hit me as hard as he wanted and so forth. So he knew that I was going to allow him to get over, and he wanted to let me chop him. And we went to the agent, and the agent said, if you chop him, you're never going to get booked here again. So you can't even throw in something as simple as a chop. So yeah, that's the one thing I was going to ask you about as we wind it down here, because now WWE, they're calling themselves a television show with wrestling in it, and they're wrestlers. They don't want them to call it wrestlers. They're performers or entertainers, but at the same time, they don't want to classify them as actors. So do you think they should be able to have it both ways? If they're not wrestlers anymore, why can't they be actors in the actors union?
And you know what? This is the reason why I don't watch it I haven't watched it in years. You know what I mean? I was so embarrassed because I was at Joe Bruin's New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. I got inducted in there in 2014, and the next year that I did it, somebody had poked me on the shoulder, and they said, Mario, and I said, yeah, and they introduced themselves to me, and I'm like, he goes, thanks for paving the way. And I go, oh, well, what do you do? And he was like, I was a wrestler for the WWE. And he goes, but I made a better announcer. I announced for a long time. And I said, oh. He goes, I just want to say thank you for what you did in the business. I really appreciate it. And then we started talking. And he had told me how the promos are scripted, the matches are scripted. And I said, it was Matt Stryker. And I go, I'm Matt, I don't watch it. And I haven't watched it since I got out in 92. So my answer is that they should be able to be called wrestlers. I mean, it's pro wrestling, man. Just call them wrestlers. I mean, there's not a problem with that. Just call them wrestlers. I don't listen. I know kayfabe is dead and buried. I get it. And, all of us, Hannibal and David Schultz at the cost of his entire career by smacking John Stossel, protected kayfabe. Nobody mourns kayfabe more than Jim Cornette. I consider him a genius in this business. But for everybody who protected kayfabe, Vince is the one that he's the one that let it out for money. Because if he called himself entertainment, like the circus, then he didn't have to answer to the state athletic commissions. Didn't have to answer to state athletic commissions. And didn't have to pay him, because the circus didn't have to pay the state athletic commission. Why should we? We're an entertainment. We're not a sport. So he's the one that crushed Keith. We all tried to protect it because, he is Vince McMahon. He's the ringmaster. He's the wrestling messiah, and we're trying to protect it. And he's the one that let it out. So
And I just saw something that disgusted me the other day from a kayfabe, and it just reminds me why I can't watch it.
I can't watch it.
They have that big Omos guy, like 7'4" or whatever, from Nigeria. He's supposed to be a big bad heel. And then they put all over social media, he's in Nigeria doing press right now, and it shows him coming to see his family for the first time in 14 years. And he surprises them, and they all hug him and stuff. And it's like, this is supposed to be one of your top heels. Why do I even want to watch this anymore? This is not wrestling anymore.
No, it's not wrestling. Listen, I was in that meeting in that ballroom. I can't tell you I remember what town we were in, but it was right after Sheik and Duggan got snagged in the same car, and there was a meeting with the whole company. And let me tell you something. Vince came in, beat red, and he just lambasted all of us screaming because Duggan and Sheik had a big storyline going then. And, heels drove with heels and baby faces drove with baby faces. Heels roomed with heels, baby faces roomed with baby faces. And they broke kayfabe, and he was pissed. I mean, we loved kayfabe, and Hannibal, you're not a small guy yourself, so somebody goes up to you, and kayfabe's still alive, and they go, "Yeah, I think this stuff's all fake." First thing you're going to say if there's a ring available, you're going to go, "Why don't you come on in?" So you're always able to protect it because you got to beat the shit out of the marks that questioned kayfabe and still worked with the guys that were within kayfabe. So it was always a win-win. But that's all gone. It's all
The
gone.
magic is gone, and that's why some people will call me bitter. But no, I still love wrestling. I'm still interested in it, but the magic is gone, and seeing a heel do that, it's just actually breaks my heart because it's like this is not the wrestling I fell in love with. Could you imagine Andre the Giant coming to see his family in the middle of WrestleMania 3 feud, and it just shows him
Well,
hugging
this
his.
is this is the reason, I came to this law firm 27 years ago. I knew nothing about the law, but I finished college here, and then I went to law school, and eventually, obviously, I started learning the profession. But the first thing that was asked of me on April 3rd, 1995, when I started this job, were all your pictures? I go, what pictures? We'll put them on the wall. What pictures? Well, you shaking Hulk Hogan's hand, Andre, Jimmy Snuka, Roddy Piper, all these guys that you worked with, all these wrestlers. Did you guys take pictures? I go, are you out of your mind? I don't have one picture. I got pictures of myself. I go, if you went up and asked somebody to take a picture with them in the dressing room back in the 80s, they would have said, why don't you go to the box office and buy a ticket? I go, you can't, you didn't take pictures with people. There were group pictures of a lot of guys that you see on the internet, when they're all together, maybe in the back or something at somebody's house. You always see a group picture, but we didn't take pictures together. That's taboo. You didn't do that. You didn't do that. So, but now, heel, baby face. How about this, Hannibal? How about the tweener? I'm a heel and a baby face.
Or now the fans will get mad at you if you're too much of a heel, and they'll try and cancel you because he's really bad.
Yeah,
We don't like him. He's really a bad person. So then
yeah.
that person will have to apologize if he wants to come back as a heel. So it's a different thing, sadly. But since you brought up Snook, I'll ask you one last question. I think we'll have to have you back another time. We don't want to take up too much of your time today. But there was a fan that had a good question earlier. Were you behind the scenes as like a lower card guy when the Snuka thing happened in Allentown? Because maybe as a guy that people wouldn't have been as shy to talk around, you would have had a different experience hearing some of the stuff surrounding that if you were booked on that tour.
No, but I only have one story about that. Only one. Um, I think I was walking into the Baltimore Civic Center. Um, and the Tonga kid was cutting a promo, and he was going, Piper, 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 right? So I go in the dressing room with Chief, and I go, Hey, Chief, what's with the Tonga kid with the Piper? What's it to you? I go, where's Snuka? He goes, what's it to you, Mancini? What are you writing a book? I go, no, Chief. Where's Snuka? He goes, oh, he had to take some time off. I go, what did he get hurt? He goes, Mancini, would you leave me alone? So you know who always there's always what we call the stooge. There was always one stooge in there. So I'm asking around. I'm like, where's Snuka? Where's Snuka? He's like, oh, he had to go away for a little while. He had a problem. You know. All I heard, the only thing they said was rough sex. I said, he hurt somebody. He's dead. I'm like, oh shit, and that was it. That's it. That's all I got.
The days before the internet and cell phones, news didn't travel quite as well. But thanks for all of these great stories. And if you want to tell people if they're in the Connecticut area and are looking to go to wrestling school or watch some wrestling, where can they find you?
That's ParadiseAlleyProWrestling.com. Paul Roma's always welcome on and myself on Facebook, Mario Mancini or Paul Roma. You can even give us a DM or something, whatever they call it, a direct message or whatever, and inquire about it. So either that or you can check it out at ParadiseAlleyProWrestling.com. We're in East Haven, Connecticut. It's the only school I believe of that has 4 former WWE wrestlers that are involved in it. It's myself, Paul Roma, Paul Perez, who was with the WWE probably from 88 to 93, and Big Steve Tracy, who was there for a couple of years as Dave Paradise. The problem with Big Steve was he's 6'6", so he's bigger than the guys that he was putting over, and that kind of it didn't look good. So without any politics and without him being gay and without having a bloodline into the business, they didn't hold on to him too long. That's right, I said it. Without having a bloodline, which I have no hard feelings toward, that's their entitlement. That's wrestling royalty, those bloodlines. They're entitled. But without being gay in the Pat Patterson era, or, going in to be over, or you look like a freak, you weren't going anywhere. No one was giving you a push. So Big Steve really, he was short-lived there, but he was there for a couple of years. So all 4 of us are with Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, and we really enjoy what we do there. And it was a pleasure doing this show, Hannibal. I'm honored that you asked me to do it. I'm really happy. I like to thank Cheap Heat and Maurice. You guys can catch me on there on a monthly basis. I'm there with my brother every month. He calls it the Mario Mancini Show. He doesn't call it Cheap Heat. He goes, welcome to the Mario Mancini Show. So, and, we just chug along doing the best we can.
Well, interesting stuff. And I did watch a couple of those Cheap Heat ones earlier today, and definitely I want to have you on again sometime, hopefully, because there's a lot of other stuff I want to ask you about. But I'm glad you give very detailed answers, so you could close this off, whatever you want to say to the fans.
Yeah, listen, when I go to wrestling conventions, I just want to thank each and every one of you. Probably one of my greatest kicks I got was in Hamburg, PA, when a fan just came up to my table and just stood there, and he just grinned. And I'm like, hi. And he just stood there and grinned. And I go, and he goes, you were my childhood. You were my childhood. He goes, in fact, when we used to play wrestle, I was always you. I was always Mario Mancini. And I said, I hope you won. He goes, no, I lost every match. I said, oh, just like me. And, he goes, I can't believe I'm looking at you. I would go anywhere in the country for free to experience that. So I want to thank all you guys for that, and I want to thank everybody that watches Hannibal or any other podcast I'm on. And I'm most thankful for being 56 years old and being able to be with my brothers at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling that I've known. It's going to be going on 40 years now, and all my brothers on the road, Axe and Smat, Billy and Barry, Demolition and Valentine and Beefcake and Tito Santana and Tony Atlas and all my friends and everything. I'm very blessed that I'm still able to see them, talk with them, and laugh with them. This life is very short, you know what I mean? And I take nothing for granted, even as a jobber. So until I see you guys next time, I do have a lot more other stories. So hopefully Hannibal will have me on again, and I'll see you guys again.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews,